If your husband struggles with pornography use or other behaviors like that, you're probably feeling frustrated. You're probably constantly wondering, like, why is this a thing? Why can't he stop even though he tells me he will? Why is this our life? You're probably thinking things like, if he loved me enough, then he would quit. If I was prettier, sexier, skinnier, curvier, then this wouldn't be a problem for him. You might also be thinking things like, well, if I did more, then I could prevent this. Maybe you're having feelings of guilt, like this is your fault in some way. Or maybe just part of you thinks, my husband is a bad person and he can't control himself. I'm going to tell you in this video why all of those things that you're thinking are not true. Before we move on, just to be clear, this video is for you if you are having a hard time separating yourself from your husband's problem. You're having a hard time separating your self-worth, your self-esteem, your mood, your general life from his problems. This video is for you if your husband struggles with pornography use, sexting, chat rooms, any types of those things. This video is for you if your husband has lied to you in the past or he's still lying to you. This video is for you if you are wanting to understand more about your husband, why he's struggling, how to support him, and most importantly, how you can start becoming free from your husband's porn problem. Hey, I'm Katie. I am a certified life coach. I specialize in betrayal, and I help women just like you start feeling confident, feeling empowered, feeling at peace with whatever is going on in their marriage. I help women just like you learn to be okay, even if they're not okay with their husband's porn problem. I know this sounds counterintuitive, but I promise you it's possible. Just 7 years ago, I was in your shoes. I found out about my husband's pornography use a year into our marriage on our first year anniversary, and I really, really struggled. I felt completely miserable. I struggled with self-worth. I struggled with body image. I had anxiety, paranoia, like all of the things that accompanied this. And I kind of used to think that I had only two options. The first option was to get a divorce, leave the situation, leave my husband. The second option was to stay unhappy in my marriage because my husband was struggling with his pornography use. I felt extremely stuck. I felt alone. I didn't know how to move forward and heal. I was looking for tons of support and for resources, and I found a lot of things that did not work at all. But then I did find a few things that actually made a huge difference and helped me heal from betrayal. When I first found out about my husband's pornography use, I had this idea in my mind growing up in a conservative religion. All I ever heard was that pornography is evil, it destroys families, and it's just really, really bad. So in my mind, I thought pornography is evil, therefore, if my husband is looking at pornography, he is evil. I also believed that his problem had everything to do with me, that I wasn't enough in some way. And it wasn't until I learned what I'm about to show you that everything changed for me. So here's the real reason why your husband struggles with pornography use. I'm gonna get a little bit nerdy here. I hope you're here for it. I love this nerdy stuff. So there's a part of your brain, it's in the very back of your brain, and we call it the primitive brain. This is the part of your brain that is dedicated to survival. And so one of the biggest jobs that your primitive brain has is to keep you safe, alive, and out of danger. And so part of this is definitely physical. It wants to keep you physically safe, physically alive, make sure you have food, water, sleep, all of those things. Most of us have all of those things already, and our brain isn't that worried about physically surviving. But another thing that our brain really focuses on is keeping you emotionally safe. Your brain does not like to feel uncomfortable emotions. When you feel sad, disappointment, when you feel rejected, when you feel embarrassed, when you feel unworthy, the back of your brain, the primitive part of your brain, starts sending signals and is like, danger, danger, like there is a huge threat here. So what happens is we as humans, everyone does this, we try to push those uncomfortable emotions away. Our brain tells us that no matter what we do, we gotta get rid of those uncomfortable emotions. This back part of your brain, the primitive part of your brain, it operates under three basic motivations. I'm gonna show you on the board. So this is called the motivational triad. These are the three motives that your primitive brain operates under. And all of our brains do this as humans. This is what our brains do. But most of us have never been taught this, and most of us don't even recognize that this is happening. So let's talk about how this relates to your husband when he is acting out in some way. When you're acting out in some way that goes against your values, or you're doing things that like you don't necessarily like, it's because you are in this motivational triad without even recognizing it. So, the very first motive that your brain has is to decrease pain. It could be physical pain, but in this case, I'm mostly talking about emotional pain. So, when your husband is in some kind of emotional pain, he's having uncomfortable feelings, his brain is feeling extremely threatened and activated. His brain is saying, danger, danger, like we gotta get out of this situation. I'm feeling so uncomfortable. What are we gonna do? So that brings us to the second motivation, which is to increase pleasure. So when your brain is wanting to decrease pain, then the next part of your brain is like, oh, I know how to do that. Let's increase our pleasure. And guess one way that your husband probably really likes to increase pleasure? That's looking at pornography or acting out in some way. And again, most of us don't even recognize that we're doing this. Your husband doesn't even know that this is his cycle. This is likely something that he learned maybe from a young age, or whenever your husband started acting out in this way, he's just kind of gotten caught up in this cycle and it's just habitual at this point. His brain is activated, he's in pain, he automatically goes to seeking pleasure, getting a dopamine hit. And for a lot of men, that's pornography or acting out in some way. So then I know you're probably like, well, yeah, that makes sense. Like, I get why he does that. But if he's feeling uncomfortable emotions, if he has a hard time at work, if he's struggling in school, if he feels embarrassed about something, why doesn't he just come talk to me about it, right? Like, I'm here to help him through his emotional pain. I'm here to provide pleasure for him in lots of different ways. Why doesn't he just come to me? And that takes us to our third motivation, which is to conserve energy, which is basically like decreasing effort. Your brain doesn't really like effort. The default setting in your brain is not to use too much effort. So, guess what doesn't take a lot of effort? Pornography use, acting out, lying, like all of these things. So, what happens is he pulls out his phone just right out of his pocket, and there it is. Increase in pleasure, right? And guess what else takes effort? You're like, well, why doesn't he just come to me? Like, I can provide comfort or pleasure for him. And he could, but that would take effort, right? Coming to you requires connection, it requires vulnerability, it requires like an amount of authenticity. And that's scary for your husband. That is causing him some emotional pain. And so the cycle just kind of goes over and over again. In order for your husband to reach out to you and to connect with you and to be honest with you, he will have to break one or all of these motivations. So now you know the real reason why your husband struggles with pornography use or is acting out in some way. And I'm sure you have lots of feelings about that. We'll talk about it in a second. But what's very, very helpful for you to realize right now, something that I always talk to my clients about, is this motivational triad so you can understand scientifically why your husband is doing what he's doing. It's also extremely helpful to realize that every single human, including you, including me, have this motivational triad going on in all aspects of our life. A lot of people will try to increase pleasure by online shopping, by eating, by exercising, anything that you can do to distract from this emotional pain. It's also really helpful to realize that pornography use isn't like this really big, vast, scary, abstract thing that your husband is struggling with. What he's struggling with is something that all humans struggle with, and there is a way out. So, in order for your husband to heal and overcome pornography use, what he needs to do is he needs to learn to confront and accept the uncomfortable emotions that he's feeling instead of avoiding them and distracting from them and pushing them off. He needs to stop distracting himself with these things that are increasing his pleasure and that are distracting him from his pain. And then he also needs to do the hard work that's going to require vulnerability, letting go of shame. It's going to require connection. And all of those things are going to help him make lasting changes, but they are going to take effort. So the good news is this is absolutely doable. There is hope. He can overcome these things, and there are so many tools out there for him to do that. The less good news is that there is nothing that you can do to force him out of this cycle. As much as you want to help him, these are things that he needs to learn on his own. You can't really teach him how to get out of this. So, enough talking about your husband. Now, let's talk about you. How does this affect you? What does this mean for you? When I teach my clients something like this, I hear lots of different things. Sometimes I hear women say, yeah, it makes sense, but like it makes me so angry that he's in this cycle and he can't get out of it. Or it makes me so angry that he has chosen to increase his pleasure with pornography instead of some other type of addiction. I hear lots of women say, well, yeah, that makes sense, but I still feel betrayed. I still feel hurt. I still feel sad. And of course you do. So, as I'm teaching this to you, I don't want you to think that this should solve all of your problems. This is just one puzzle piece of finally becoming free from your husband's porn problem. So, now intellectually, you might know, well, yeah, like that's great. That makes sense. Very interesting about the motivational triad. But now, what do I do with all of these feelings I'm having? I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling resentful. Feeling betrayed, I'm feeling hurt, I'm feeling unloved, I'm feeling undesired. Now, what do I do? And this is the best news that I have for you. As you learn to separate yourself from your husband's porn problem, then you can heal and you can allow your husband to heal. I'm not saying detach yourself or don't support your husband. There is a place for that. But what if there was a place for you to say, I am learning to heal and I'm supporting my husband in his healing and growth? I've already talked about what it's going to require for your husband to heal. And again, it's not something that you can do. None of this is because of anything that you're doing or not doing. You cannot change or break this cycle for him. The only thing that you can change is how you're feeling about the cycle. Imagine if you were able to get to a place where every time he relapsed and went through the cycle, you didn't feel shame. You didn't feel like you had no self-worth. You didn't feel like you were undesired. What if you could get to a place where you felt safe, worthy, loved, confident, regardless of what your husband is doing? What if you were able and had the tools to manage your own uncomfortable emotions instead of avoiding them, pushing them off, and letting them build up and fester? What if you were able to get to a place where you were able to release the emotional baggage, all of the feelings, all of the emotions that you've been storing for so long? What if you could take that weight off your shoulders? What if you could trust yourself to know that no matter what happens, you've got your own back? You know how to be a safe person for yourself. You know how to validate yourself, help yourself feel worthy. All of this probably sounds impossible, right? Right now, it feels like you are still so tied to your husband's problem. It still feels like there's no way that you could be okay if your husband is still struggling with these things. But I promise you, it is possible. I've done it for myself, and I've taught hundreds of women just like you how they can heal from betrayal and become free from their husband's pornography problem. It doesn't have to weigh you down anymore. You don't have to be so tied to your husband's problems. You don't have to be on that emotional roller coaster of when he's good, you're good. When he's bad, you're bad. You can let it go. You can heal. You can create safety. You can feel worthy. Doesn't that sound so nice? So if this sounds amazing to you, if you are finally ready to let go of the weight you've been carrying around for so long, if you are serious about taking the next steps forward on your healing journey, letting go of your husband's problem, and start feeling better for yourself, sign up for my free training. Click the link below. In my free training, I'm going to teach you the 3 secrets to becoming free from your husband's pornography problem. These 3 secrets will tell you everything that you need to know to stop feeling so triggered all the time. Start loving yourself and loving your body, feeling confident in yourself, regardless of what's going on with your husband's pornography problem. Learning to trust yourself and trust your husband. Learning to manage your emotions so you're not an emotional roller coaster. I'm going to help you stop feeling so anxious and so paranoid so you don't feel like you have to check up on him all the time. All of these things and more will be in my free training. Click the link below. I only have 50 spots available because I love getting to everybody's questions that are there. So click the link below to guarantee yourself one of those spots. Can't wait to see you there.